there guys, how are you? Welcome back to another awesome video, and we have another top 10 video. And today's top 10 video is going to be the top 10 best movies of 2022. So for this list, these are the movies that I saw, in my opinion, were the best movies of 2022. And bear in mind that I did not see every movie that came out in 2022 within the time span I had, but these are the movies that I believe, in my opinion, were the best, whether in terms of enjoyment, entertainment, maybe on an emotional level or an emotional scale, or something maybe in between or something else. These are just my opinions. If there's any that I may have missed, feel free to let me know in the comment section, or if there's any that you thought were the best of this year that I didn't mention on this list, you're more than welcome to leave those down in the comment section as well, because you're allowed to share your opinion. And without further ado, let's jump into it. And at number 10, we have Nightmare Alley. Technically, I know this came out last year, but I have two, perhaps three reasons why. Reason one is, although I did say this was an honorable mention for my best movies of 2021, which I will maybe leave a link in the description, or you're more than welcome to go check that out on my channel, but I was able to see this movie sometime this year. That's reason one. Reason two is that this was around Oscar season. So this was kind of like around November, December of last year into this year. So I'm counting this as late last year, early this year type of film. So this kind of gets a leeway bypass into 2022. And three, I again saw this movie this year. I saw it. It was Bella and I's first date, our first movie date, so that has more value and more reason for me to put this on this list. But outside of that, I think this was just a fantastic film, directed by Guillermo del Toro and with great performances by Bradley Cooper, Cate Blanchett, and Willem Dafoe, just to name a few. And definitely this movie got a little twisted, and without giving away spoilers to the film, this definitely got a little twisted, and I kind of like that it did get a bit twisted with its direction. Number 9 is Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. Now, I know this movie is not prestige or anything like that, but I had such a hell of a good time with this movie, and I didn't think this movie would be as good as it is and as it was, and I didn't think this movie would be and go as hard as it did, but it totally did, and it went over the hills and over 9,000 and so forth, with how much fun I had with it, with how funny it was, how clever, almost original in its own right, in its own little way, and it had a small little emotion to it, and I just loved this. I had a blast with this, and all else I can say is, let's get a Darkwing Duck movie. Who's with me? Number 8 is A Fairy Tale After All. Now, I don't know if this is considered like a short film, but I think this was a feature film or something like that. But the point I'm trying to get across is that this was theatrically released, and this was also directed by a YouTuber, and he got this movie to be released in theaters, and you can purchase it on YouTube. So I definitely highly recommend that you buy this movie on YouTube, or you look it up, buy it on YouTube so you can watch it for yourself, and or buy a physical copy if there's physical copies or DVDs of this film. I definitely recommend it, so that way, like, filmmakers out there can get noticed and get revenue and just all that stuff to get attention. And plus you have Brian Hull in this film, who plays like this dog puppet thing named Thumbkin. Just perfect. Number 7 is Turning Red. Now, I was very excited for this film for how the style and the comedy and the animation looked on this, and the potential of emotion that this had. But I didn't expect this movie to be as emotional as it was and as it did. And I feel like many people can relate to this, whether you're a middle schooler, high schooler, going to college, a woman, man, non-binary, whatever you are. I feel like someone can relate to this coming of age story, and just the obstacles of going through phases in your life and emotions in your life that you're going through, the struggles, and how that kind of just symbolizes and it channels. I think it was just well done, and I feel like this type of message was definitely well executed. Number 6 is Elvis. Absolutely an amazing biopic with such an interesting, let's just say an interesting style and direction by Baz Luhrmann, but you have great talent like Tom Hanks, and of course Austin Butler as the king of rock and roll himself, and the depiction of the career, the legacy, and the commercialism of Elvis's life. And I know some of this could be true, some of this could be false, a lot of this could be true, a lot of this could be false, but the way this movie depicts Elvis's life, I think, was definitely just really excellent. Alright, we're nearing down my final 5 on my list, and at number 5 is The Samaritan. Just like with Rescue Rangers, this movie's not like prestige or Oscar worthy or anything like that, or anything fancy schmancy, but I really liked Samaritan a lot, and I'm a big Sylvester Stallone fan, so I really enjoyed this quite a bit more, and I kind of like this idea of this ordinary Joe Schmo having these extraordinary powers, kind of like Bruce Willis in Unbreakable a little bit, kind of that vibe of this guy, just this average guy, and just having these like unique, incredible powers, and just that grittiness to it was just really cool. And this surprisingly had an interesting twist. I didn't expect and didn't think that this would be like, this would have a twist to it, but I liked kind of the approach it was going for, and I think it was definitely not the most original, but I definitely think it had a uniqueness to it. Number 4 is The Fabelmans. Not only is this a love letter to Steven Spielberg, but this was directed by Steven Spielberg, and this was definitely an homage to the type of life that he lived as a child and growing up and wanted to be a filmmaker. And the fact of this is just so relatable on so many levels, and just that love letter to cinema, because it's Steven Spielberg. He's one of the greatest directors of all time. He's the most inspiring and the most admired director out there, and he's just one of the best at his crafts. But just how relatable this story is, because I myself want to get into film directing and filmmaking and all that stuff, and I haven't pushed myself as of recently, but just seeing just that sort of desire to want to make movies and go out there and do this sort of stuff is inspiring, and it's a little bit emotional. At number 3 is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I know a lot of people love this movie. I know this is now kind of getting a lot of hate, and this is kind of getting a little bit of like people are kind of like feeling in the middle, but I really loved this movie. I think this is definitely better than the first Doctor Strange, and I love that Sam Raimi went full on like horror with this, and I think this was definitely up his alley, and I think this had the right amount of multiverse, and I think this had the right amount of madness for a film like this. At number 2 is The Batman. I'm still just in awe of how well this was directed and written, and just the style of it is just so phenomenal. And I'm still blown away by the fact that Robert Pattinson just gave such an incredible performance as Batman, and has become now, already within this year, probably one of the best Batman out there. He just makes the character, and this is the first, or one of the very first Batman movies to feel like a full-on detective film, and just a lot of things with how well it's just executed, and this being very full-on detective mystery and taking place during the long Halloween. This was just so incredible. For unveil our number 1 pick, here are a few honorable mentions. Sonic 2. I finally saw Sonic 2, and I know this is not, again, a big like emotional film, but I had a fun time with this film. I had a great time with it, with Tails, with Idris Elba's Knuckles, with this having Shadow as a post-credit scene, which then gets me more hyped and excited for Sonic 3, and then this supposedly being Jim Carrey's last film, so I had a good time. The Lost City. Again, I think this was just a fun time watching Brad Pitt, Channing Tatum, and Sandra Bullock in a Uncharted, very much Indiana Jones kind of like esque premise with Daniel Radcliffe as an eccentric like villain. I think this just screams a good time. Lightyear. I know not a lot of people are crazy about the twists with Zurg. I didn't mind it. I thought it was very interesting, especially with I think Lightyear, in my opinion, was definitely going in that direction. It feels definitely a little bit more like Interstellar, which I don't mind that it kind of feels a little like Interstellar, but I kind of like that it did that. So that was definitely like a little bit of a plus for me because I liked Interstellar a lot. And outside of that, I think this was such a great movie. This looks animated beautifully. And I feel like this is definitely going to be a film that I know it's not going to be one of the best Pixar movies, but I think this is definitely going to have like its own fan base or its own following. Babylon. I haven't seen this movie yet, but I'm hearing so much praise from Damien Chazelle as a director, and then with stars like Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, and Tobey Maguire, just to name a few, just sounds incredible. Glass Onion. I haven't seen this sequel to Knives Out yet. I'm hearing such great things about it with its ensemble, with Daniel Craig, Leslie Odom Jr., I think Catherine Hahn is in this movie, Dave Bautista, and I want to say Edward Norton is in this as well. But this just sounds like a great murder mystery. And now, my number one pick of my top 10 best movies of 2022 is, drumroll please, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. This definitely hit me on an emotional level with just how well this was beautifully done and just everything I feel from square one to square 22 or whatever, just handled so well and with so much passion, so much love, and so much respect, not only to Chadwick Boseman, but to the character and the legacy of T'Challa, Black Panther as a whole, to Wakanda, and of course, this is a love letter and an homage and a tribute to Chadwick Boseman. And just the fact that this movie actually happened with our main lead now gone and to carry on without him, just still, I have so much admiration for Ryan Coogler and the cast and everyone that was involved. And those are my favorite movies of this year. And like I said before, let me know in the comments, what were your favorite movies of this year? And as always, guys, if you like this video, please smash the like button. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I do Oscars every day, if not a week. Make sure you ring that bell. I do new videos every day, if not a week. Share the video with family and friends, all that good stuff and more. Leave any suggestions in the comment section. You name it, I'll look into it as best as possible. And look out for my worst movies of 2022 sometime before the end of this year. And then once we go into the new year, you guys will see my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2023. I'm most excited to unveil those. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.